Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for coming today. I am Rakugo comic storyteller Katsura Sunshine, and I'm the 15th apprentice to the Rakugo master Katsura Bunshi VI. On Thursday, September 19th, thanks to the support of our investors, sponsors, co-producers, friends, and family, we will begin the first ever commercial long run of Rakugo off Broadway at the stunning and renowned New World Stages Theater Complex in New York. I came to Japan 21 years ago. From my adopted country, Japan, I have received so much. The beauty of a centuries-old culture, the ethos of the Japanese words omoiyari and kizukai, paying attention to others before yourself, the discipline and focus of the Japanese ethos of kiwameru, which means focusing on one thing and taking it to the limit of perfection, and more specifically, the beautiful art of Rakugo comic storytelling, a gem of Japanese culture that is still not widely known outside of this country. Mounting Rakugo on Broadway is a small way of bringing all this to the world, and also a small way of giving back. From my master, Katsura Bunshi VI, I have also received so much. The example of his tirelessness in keeping an invaluable tradition alive and expanding its reach far beyond what people 100 and 200 years ago could have imagined possible. The example of my master's humility and gratitude towards his fans and supporters day in, day out. The example of his perfection and perfectionism in comic storytelling, which I can never hope to achieve myself, but which has given me a distant goal and a distant target to aim for. Performing my master's original Rakugo stories on Broadway is a small way of bringing all that to the world, and a small way of giving back as well. Broadway is a magical place, as you all know. And Broadway is where stories are told. But the real magic of Broadway is that small, personal, local, colorful stories told there are soon noticed, seen, heard, and enjoyed throughout the world. Rakugo, for the past several hundred years, has been a commercial entertainment in Japan. And what I mean by that is that people take time, spend money, buy tickets, go to the theater to laugh, to forget about their troubles for a moment, to be transported into an imaginary world that reflects and refracts their own in hilarious and entertaining ways. Rakugo, up to now, has been received abroad as one of the seemingly infinite gems of Japanese culture. My producing colleagues and I aim to make Rakugo around the world exactly what it is and has been here in Japan. Not just a cultural gem, but a legitimate and proper commercial entertainment. Through a long run on Broadway, we hope that Rakugo will be recognized by and produced in theaters throughout the world in the future. So Rakugo is not a dream or an aim or the final goal. Broadway is not a dream or an aim or a final goal. Broadway is a very big step to a larger goal. My dream is that someday Rakugo will join the ranks of kabuki, karaoke, izakaya, anime, karate, sumo, samurai, kimono, zen, haiku, and countless other Japanese words and cultural concepts adopted and embraced by the world and incorporated fully into the English language. I invite you all to join us on this journey. I would like at this time to thank my master, Katsura Bunshi, and my Rakugo brothers and sisters for their teaching and patience, and for the inspiration to do this. As well, I would like to thank my agency in Japan, Yoshimoto Kogyo, for the support, resources, creative inspiration, and undying belief in the visions of its artists and entertainers for helping make this dream become a reality. Achieving a vision of this magnitude takes inspiration, and inspiration can be intangible, but it also requires something very, very tangible, and that is funding. Over the last 3 years, many people have taken a chance on me by making substantial investments in the company I created with my business partner, Marie Fukuda, and our original and ongoing sponsors at the great Japanese law firm TMI Associates. Our investors have been infinitely patient, so it is a great pleasure to finally announce the opening of the show, which could not have been accomplished without them. Incidentally, our show is yet to be 100% capitalized, so there is still an opportunity to invest in Rakugo off-Broadway. If you would like to be a part of our journey, please talk to me after the show. I can think of safer investments, but I can think of few more interesting, enjoyable, and worthwhile investments, and none that would make me personally happier. Also, we are proud to announce, and now I would like to introduce the gentleman sitting beside me, without whom any of this would have been possible. Joe Trentacosta is an accomplished and renowned public relations expert on Broadway and off-Broadway, and is the executive producer of Katsura Sunshine's Rakugo off-Broadway. He made the journey from New York to Tokyo yesterday with his entire family, just to be here for this press conference. And also because he felt in his heart that before we begin this run off-Broadway, he should experience at least a taste of what I have experienced and come to love over the last 21 years in Japan. So I would like to now pass the baton over to my friend Joe Trentacosta to say a few words about our exciting project.
It's been fantastic. And I met Sunshine 2.5 years ago. And we were working together on this brief little workshop production that he was doing downtown. And it was during Thanksgiving, which is a very busy time for people in the United States, but not a huge time to go to the theater for small theaters. And when I walked in and I saw a full theater, I knew that there was something there. New York is known for its big and over-the-top productions. So when I saw Sunshine do Rakugo, its simplicity and its ability to tell a story really blew me away. And these are the types of stories and the type of performers that New York needs more of. It was, when people were seeing that show, they were quiet, they were listening, they were taken away from their problems outside of those doors and whisked away to a whole other world that was filled with laughter and fun and connection. And that's what we need more of. And that's why I'm so excited and thrilled that at the end of our 2.5 journey, we're starting a whole other phase on Broadway at New World Stages in a gorgeous theater. And I cannot wait to introduce Rakugo to the rest of the world. Cheers.
Cheers.
I'm going to take the first question now. You know, when you read about the various traditions in Japan, where the apprentice comes into the master and typically has a very hard, sort of disciplined period of time of being, I don't know, beaten into submission in some sort of form.
Yes.
Whether it be, you know, we've got the Karate Kid kind of film, the sort of wipe on, wipe off kind of idea, sushi chefs who go through this very, very, very tough period of training. Could you tell us a little bit about what that was like with your master and what you had to go through, and any sort of anecdotes from that time you could tell us about?
Sure, yes. Yes, that's, I think, the Karate Kid, where it's wax on, wax off, and this has nothing to do with karate, and for days on end, and then finally the master goes to hit his apprentice, and he goes, wax off, and blocks the hit. And says, it had everything to do with karate. It's a Hollywood movie, but I actually find that a very accurate portrayal of a traditional Japanese apprenticeship. For us, it's 3 years, going to the master's house every day, no days off, doing the cleaning, the laundry, folding kimonos, and then also being stagehands at his shows. And that's where you really learn and also preparing it's called gakuya, the dressing room. So laying out the kimono, dressing the master, folding the kimono after he's finished, preparing the tea, etc. So yes, very strict, but the beauty of it is, I think if you paid money to take lessons, then you're only learning for that hour or that 2 hours that the teacher is teaching you. But by being with the master from morning to night, every day for 3 years, it is just an unfathomable amount that you learn. When the master's in the backseat of the car, you know, talking on the phone to journalists about Rakugo, you're sucking all that information in at that time. So it was a very tough experience, but it's something I wouldn't trade for the world. So I learned by listening to my Ani Deshi, which is the older brother storytellers. And I noticed that when they go to offer tea to the master, they'll say, Shisho, moshi yoroshikereba ocha o iresasete itadaite mo yoroshii deshou ka? Which in English means, Master, do you want some tea? It's shorter in English. But that's the polite way. So I studied for 3 days, and I finally mastered this one sentence. So I told my older brother storyteller, Sandan, I said, Sandan-Nisan, when the master wants tea, can you let me know? I want to try it. Right? He said, okay, Sunshine, I think he wants tea. Go. Right? So I went, and I said, Shisho, ocha iresasete itadaite mo yoroshii deshou ka? I said, irete, and I went and got him some tea. And the other 3 apprentices there were like, yeah, Sunshine, you got it, okay. You're in charge of tea from now on. So I could only speak when it was time to offer the master tea. But at least I could say something. So then at 10 o'clock I went and I offered him tea. And at 12 o'clock I went and offered him tea. In the afternoon, the apprentice would say, go, Sunshine, I think it's time for tea. Wait for tea. Apparently after 2 days of this, the master went to one of the older apprentices and said, is tea very popular in Canada? Sunshine seems to love tea so much. He couldn't understand it. But then that was the first step to learning proper Japanese.
And okay, so any questions from the floor? Yes. Please raise your hand if you have any questions.
HKW. Congratulations, you became the first global Rakugo teller.
Thank you very much.
Well, this notice said you are expert on Asian Greek comedies.
I wouldn't say expert. I studied that a long time ago. Yeah, maybe you forgot half, but.
So I wonder if we could transform, some of Greek woman comedy type, Onna no Heiwa into Rakugo in English.
Into Rakugo, yeah.
Yeah.
So
you can perform this and you can give that presentation in front of us.
Now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you are the Rakugo, instant artist.
Yes.
You are expert in Greek, English, and Japanese.
Yeah.
Let's hear your talk about Onna no Heiwa.
That's a very, very pornographic comedy. See, here's the thing, Rakugo, we don't touch such pornographic subjects, very clean art form, so unfortunately I have to refuse your request. But I think it's a great idea. My master, Bunshi, writes all his own Rakugo stories, and I perform his stories abroad. But I think turning a Greek comedy into a Rakugo story is not only possible, but I think that's a great idea. And I'd love to do it someday. And if it's very successful, I will pay you a % of the royalties for giving me that idea.
Only 5% is okay.
So amazing. It's much more reasonable than Yoshimoto thinks. Excellent. Very much so. I think I naturally stepped into that. I didn't come here saying I really want to be a bridge, but just performing abroad like this and performing all over the world and bringing the things I love about Japan to the world, and also maybe bringing a touch of Canadianness to this Japanese art form. I definitely feel that way, and I love it. I embrace it. And as many Canadians are, I'm a hyphenated Canadian. My parents were born in Slovenia, and I also hold Slovenian citizenship. And so it's great to bring a little bit of Slovenia to Japan and a little bit of Rakugo to Slovenia as well. A lot of people don't even know where Slovenia is. There's a few Slovenians that don't know where Slovenia is. It's such a small country. So in that sense, yeah, I really enjoy doing that. And being in the States as a Canadian is also really special because, as you know, there are so many, just a disproportionate number of Canadian comedians in Hollywood. And so when I say I'm a comic storyteller and then I say I'm Canadian, they say, oh yeah, you Canadians, you're all funny and that kind of thing. It kind of fits with the mold really well in a way that makes me very happy.
Any other questions from the floor? Would anyone like to hear a story? Yes?
Yeah, we like to hear some kobanashi.
Kobanashi? Kobanashi. A short joke in English. Well, how about this? Instead of a kobanashi, I think a lot of the Japanese people in the audience might wonder how Rakugo works in English. So I would like to give you the first 2-3 minutes of my Broadway show in English right now. Would you like to hear that? Yeah? Okay, yeah. So now, even if you're Japanese, right now, you have to put in your mind that you don't understand Japanese, that you are now a New Yorker, okay? And so we are going to create a New York atmosphere here in this press conference. Is that okay? So you're no longer Japanese, you don't understand Japanese, right? When we perform Rakugo, we use only 2 props, only 2 objects. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to teach you some Japanese, okay?
Yes.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, in New York, the audiences tend to be very responsive with a big voice.
Go ahead.
And thank you, yes. So when I offer to teach people a little bit of Japanese in New York, they usually respond very enthusiastically. I need your help, okay? All right, we'll do it again. I'll teach you some Japanese, okay?
Okay.
Okay, they don't get that excited, but somewhere in between, perfect. In Japanese, we call this sensu. Please repeat, sensu. Excellent pronunciation, especially Japanese people. In English, we call this a fan. And you don't have to say fan, that's right. In Japanese, we call this tenugui. In English, we call this a hand towel. Excellent pronunciation. So far, so good. When we perform Rakugo, we wear special clothing. In Japanese, we call this a kimono. In English, we call this a kimono. Okay, that is a very hilarious joke in New York. Okay? I know maybe it doesn't work in Japan. People love that joke. In Japanese, we say teppan neta, which is an ironclad joke. It always works, except in Japan. When we perform Rakugo, we kneel on a cushion for long periods of time. 1 hour, 90 minutes, 2 hours. In Japanese, we call this seiza. In English, we call this punishment. So then if you have that much of an introduction, you're ready to go. When we begin Rakugo, in Japan, we start with a special greeting to the audience called aisatsu. I will do the traditional Japanese aisatsu for you in Japanese, and I will translate into English after. But in Japanese, the aisatsu goes like this. 皆様ご来場いただきありがとうございます。厚く御礼を申し上げます。私、こう見えても落語家なんです。桂三氏。改め六代桂文氏の15番目の弟子の桂さんに輝くとかけまして、桂サンシャインでございます。どうぞよろしくご指導ご鞭撻のほどお願い申し上げます。The same greeting translated into English. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming. Sometimes English is shorter than Japanese. Then we have other greetings in Japanese. One is 皆様遠いところからお忙しい中お越しいただきまして恐縮でございます。In English, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank you at this time for having taken the trouble today to come and see me from a faraway place at a busy time in your lives. So sometimes English is longer than Japanese. And this is no problem. In Japan, we say it all the time. At formal occasions, 遠いところからお忙しい中 thank you for coming from a faraway place, a busy time in your lives. No problem in Japan. Other countries, sometimes people make a mistake. People misinterpret. I was performing in Toronto, Canada, beautiful theater called the Winter Garden Theater, and I said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming from a faraway place at a busy time in your lives. And one audience member stood up and called out to me in a big voice, "Oi, Sunshine, I'm not busy. If I was busy, I would not be coming here to see you." So as you can see, Rakugo can translate into any language, a completely universal art form. I'm waiting for you in New York to hear the rest of the show. Thank you very much for coming today.
Thank you very much for that preview of the show. Do you have any other questions from the floor? This is your last opportunity. No? Okay. So again, thank you so much for coming today, Joe, for your travels over here and explaining everything to us. And of course, I'm sure I join everybody here in wishing you every success.
Thank you.
On Broadway.
Thank you so much.
Hope to see you again.
Yeah, thank you. Cheers.
Thank you very much.
Cheers. Thank you. Thank you very much. ありがとうございました。頑張らせていただきます。